everybody, Earl at thelogbook.com. Back to try something new. We're doing a week of Voyages of Shelf-Discovery Minis, which is, I just focus in on one topic for a very short period of time, not entirely unlike Phosphor.Fossils. Occasionally it'll be something new, but for right now, especially since I'm getting ready to move and I'm trying not to open a bunch of stuff just when I need to be boxing it back up and moving it. At the moment, I am focusing on things I already have, which I could get to easily and put in front of a camera and make a loop and talk about it. And today we're talking about the quartet of Time Lord action figures that were made by Dapol in the late 90s. In fact, I think 98 is when this wave came out. And this was quite a wave. This was from the third wave of 3 3/4 inch-ish Doctor Who action figures that Dapol made in the 90s, which was kind of an odd time because you really didn't have much else in the way of Doctor Who merch hitting at that time. I mean, you had media. You had the audios from Big Finish about to start happening. You still had the BBC books, present and past Doctor ranges of novels that were coming out monthly. And you still had Doctor Who magazine. But as far as actual merch, it just seemed like things had tailed off after kind of the double whammy of the 30th anniversary in 93 and then the Paul McGann TV movie in 96. But Dapol kept chugging along. This wave that brought us these wonderfully smiley Time Lords also featured the Third Doctor, the Roger Delgado Master, Silurians from both 1970 and 1984, and the original 1970s formulation of the Sea Devils. And there was also a Dalek with a claw instead of a plunger, which was kind of a wink wink nudge nudge, oh hey look, we did a movie Dalek without really going through all of the hoops to license that from whoever it is who owns the rights to the movies. Hey, is it Canal Plus? And yeah, so they just stuck a claw on it. Oh, hey, look, it's a Dalek with a claw. Don't know what that's about, but you've probably seen it somewhere. But the funniest, the unintentionally funniest thing to land in this wave, the Silurians and the Sea Devil were really nice figures. The John Pertwee and Roger Delgado figures were, yeah, they were okay. Then you had these Time Lords. They all seemed so happy. So happy. I don't know why they're so happy, but they are. I have never seen a bunch of, a delegation of Time Lords smile like that when greeting, the returning renegade. So where we got smiling Time Lords, I have no idea. It's like Fisher Price's My First Time Lords, My First Gallifreyans, whatever. It's so bizarre because if you look closely on their shoulders, where you see the insignia, they did go through the trouble of doing a decal of the proper Gallifreyan crest, which is a well-known symbol in Doctor Who lore. You know immediately what you're looking at. Unless you're on Voga, the planet of gold, then you really have no idea why it's there. But the Gallifreyan crest that's an incredible piece of detail to have on these figures. And then you get to their heads. And I swear to you, Fisher-Price Adventure people had more detail in their faces than these Time Lords do, more than 20 years earlier. It's just difficult to figure out how the call was made, why the call was made. You know, hey, we're gonna go extra and put the Gallifreyan crest on everyone's headdress, but if their actual heads are going to be a total mess. You know, they're going to be very happy. They're all going to be identical, basically. And obviously, that's kind of... I think that probably plays heavily into the design rationale of these. Because you have 4 different color variations of the same figure. So, you know, let's not make anything terribly distinguishing from character to character. They should all look like the same guy. Okay, I get that, but spend maybe more than 90 seconds on the face sculpt. For crying out loud. Because the thing is, for the limitations that Dapol was working under, Dapol, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who only remember the character options figures, which are wonderful, Dapol was a Welsh toy maker that specialized primarily in doing model trains. They had the opportunity to get the Doctor Who toy license around 1987. They went big in 88 because that was the 25th anniversary. And there was a whole 25th anniversary playset that they came out with. You know, TARDIS console, TARDIS walls, the Doctor and Mel and K9. And, you know, it was a big splashy thing. But there is a vast amount of difference between having the manufacturing capacity for model trains and the tooling and machining required for action figures. Because these had moving parts that were moving in different ways than the model trains had moving parts, I'll put it that way. And sometimes it seemed like they didn't know what they had gotten themselves into. This third wave was really kind of where the cracks started to show, especially with the Time Lords. The Time Lords have very little articulation. Their arms move. And that's it. Their arms move. Their feet, I think you notice when they have their backs turned, there's a great big screw down at the bottom of their ceremonial gown. I really think that's holding the single piece of their feet in place. There are no legs under any of that. It's just feet. There's no articulation of the legs. There's nothing under there to articulate. The ceremonial robes are sculpted in hard plastic. There's nothing under there. The funny thing is, I still keep these guys out on display when I have my display set up. Obviously, that's not right now. I'm still in Boxtopia, pending moving sometime this year, which I realize is something I've been saying for a long time, and that's a whole different story. But when I have stuff set up, I will actually deploy these behind a bunch of character options figures. Simply to, kind of... Army building Time Lords is not a bad idea. But, I put them way in the back, so maybe you won't notice that they're all just smiling at you. Hi, for Time Lords. And so There you have it. Really, the Daypole Time Lords are legendary in their kind of cheapness. The funny thing is, like I said, army building Time Lords is not a bad idea. Well, check this out. You see, I told you army building Time Lords can't be a bad idea because character options has done the exact same thing. This is a recent box set that they did. Now, these are a much larger scale. These are their usual 5.5 to 6-inch figures. These are all themed around the episode The Deadly Assassin, which is where we first saw all of this Time Lord regalia. And character options, being character options, they have made these specific characters and not just generic Time Lords. So you have one is the Doctor in disguise, one is Barusa, one is the Chancellor who is behind the assassination of the Time Lord president, and all of the above are specific characters and not generic like the old Daypole Time Lords were. So they're almost there. We might someday. The funny thing is, the Daypole Time Lords come in 4 color variations. They have that sort of burgundy color, which that is canonical. You can see that here with these new ones. They had a sort of off-white color, which that denotes the president of the Time Lords. We've also seen him on screen. Then they had light gray and dark gray, which it's not really something we've seen on screen. Now, this set, from character at least, we get 2 costumes from, I forget what the Time Lord houses are. Every time I try to remember the Prydonians, the Arcalians, and the Patrexes or Patrixes or something like that. I think that's it. I didn't even think to look that up, so that is pulled completely out of memory, which may be incorrect, because I start thinking of Time Lord houses and, my brain's automatically like, Slytherin? And no, it's not that. But one of the houses that is not Prydonian, they have these kind of amber butterscotch-looking robes. Nice to see those. And it would just be neat to get some generic Time Lords, one from each house. Come on, character, you can do it. I'll probably pick that one up too.